education is taken to the airwaves and is attacking the reform efforts that we're trying to work towards. Currently, the state of Maine is ranked 49th in academic performance. Last week I read another report that has Maine getting an F for its K-12 education system. In the last 2 years, I personally have taken it upon myself to do a lot of research in education, and certainly Steve and his folks over at the Department of Education have done an awful lot of work, and frankly the state of Maine is very fortunate to have Commissioner Bowen, because he is a mover and a shaker in the whole education of our kids in America. So he's recognized nationally. I went to China. That was a big part of my trip, was to study and work with the education experts over in Shanghai and Hong Kong. Governor McDonnell, Virginia, has sent some folks over to study the Finland model. I was fortunate enough to get some folks from Canada to send me some information about Alberta and the province of New Brunswick, the province of Quebec. And we've done an awful lot of research. And folks, the Maine people need to know that the status quo, the MEA, the school boards, superintendents, principals, have not been totally honest to our kids. In fact, our school systems are failing. Now, they'll say that we make budget cuts. In the last biennial, we put $63 million more than the school system had ever received. There are cuts, yes, but that's coming from the federal government. General fund money has been historical highs. I'm not so sure with the current economic crisis and the performance of schools that I'm just apt to do that again, because I think the United States of America, the average cost of education for a K through 12 is $11,000. State of Maine spending somewhere around $15,000 per student. State of Florida spends $11,000. They're on the average. They're in the top 5 in performance. 25 years ago, they were in the spot we're in. They have the fastest academic growth performance in the country. Indiana, Rhode Island, North Carolina, Georgia, Texas are all moving ahead with great education reforms and trying to bring their children from the bottom of the heap in the 25th percentile, 25 to 30, depending on what study you look at, as the United States places in English and math, to the top 10, back to where we were, #1 in the world. Now I'll give you some very basic statistics. The state of Florida has 2.7 million students, K through 12. They operate with 56 superintendents. State of Maine has 185,000 students, K through 12. We have 127 superintendents. Of that 127, roughly 20% of them are double dippers. In other words, they're getting their pensions, their full pensions, plus a full salary. And they're keeping the space away from younger, younger superintendents and younger administrators that have been studying best practices. We can stay where we are, and we can continue to abuse our children in the classroom by lying to them, and we can continue to demand our teachers dig in their pockets and go buy supplies for the classroom while we support the large administrative structure that we have in the state of Maine. We can continue to underpay our teachers and expect that we're going to get good quality education. It's really sad to see hardworking people in the education world, paying their dues but still have to dig into their pocket to buy supplies, while we have superintendents, assistant superintendents, principals, vice principals in the school system, and we do that with 185,000 students, one of the smallest school systems in the country. So is there some strains on the economics of education? Sure. But something like $75 million, I'm guessing now, this is not specifics, we're still working on it, but I'd say that between the overhead of the infrastructure to manage the 185,000 kids is somewhere around $70 to $75 million that should go into the classroom. We should be paying our teachers more money. Now, one thing, and I'll say it again, I've said it every year since I've been governor. I've approached the MEA and said, we will put up $5 million, you match it, and we will make monies available for our teachers to do continuing education so they can improve their skills for the classroom. We're trying, but we get stonewalled. Now, yesterday, to me, was pretty sad. When the school boards, the administrative boards of our public schools got together and hired lawyers to challenge the Charter Commission, to intimidate them to the point where they were afraid to do their jobs. And frankly, I think those people, if they're afraid to do the job, if they can't put their students first, then they ought to resign. And quite frankly, I think we ought to go back to the legislature and change that structure, because that structure failing us. It's run by the status quo. And if we stay in status quo, we may drop from 49th to 51st, because as soon as Puerto Rico becomes a state, they're going to beat us, because we don't care about our kids. And people say, oh, we care, we care, we care. Well, actions speak louder than words. And when you're taking a big chunk of the cash that is necessary to go into the class,